All right, mate.
I was going to say hello to them first, but you just said hello to me, so I'll say hello to you, hello,
Hi.
and hello to you, hello.
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of the Drive Talk podcast.
Hello, mate.
How's it going?
Now we haven't got our beginning. We're kind of working our way in lots of different ways to start a podcast.
Yeah, there is no specific beginning, is there?
No, unless hate, hopefully.
Yes. Let's see. Watch this space.
Anyway, mate, it is good to be back in the roastery again.
Yep.
I'm trying not to drink too much caffeine.
No. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, when you're down here, podium place. But it's a great place.
Yeah. But no, anyway, welcome back to the Drive Talk podcast. Powered by Michelin.
Yep.
We should have a bit of a chat about Michelin because a few interesting things have happened.
They have. Yes. For both of us
I
and
know.
for all of us.
Exactly. Yeah. So you first.
Yeah.
Well, you've been a brand ambassador for Michelin now for the last 2 years?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I've just, a few weeks ago now, they've confirmed me as a brand ambassador for 2024, which is great, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
It is. It's very great. I know in the last podcast we talked about, what we do today is a business, and there's a lot of things that we need to juggle and make work. But I think when you've got an amazing brand like Michelin behind you, financially and just in terms of what they can give you, what they can offer us, it's a great way to start the year.
It is. It is indeed.
It's a grippy way to start the year.
Oh, very good.
Oh.
Yeah. You're not as tired as you were last time.
Oh, classic.
Should we stop with the dad jokes?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I find them funny, but I find everything funny. That's great. It's really cool. It means that I can continue doing a lot of stuff with Michelin, going on some fantastic trips, meeting some awesome people that I wouldn't necessarily meet, and also doing some great things in terms of content that obviously will somehow revolve around Michelin as a brand, whether it's the tyres or the food, etc. But being able to make that happen, whereas if I was on my own, I probably wouldn't be able to make that happen.
Exactly.
That's really great. But I understand that you've also got similar news to share with us.
Well, yeah. It's spooky, that, really. So I recently have announced that I too, for this year, have been invited to be a Michelin brand ambassador, which when Michelin asked me, I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Yep.
I mean, we worked with them last year on the podcast, and I had done quite a few things with Michelin over the past few years. It was my first ever press trip. And I got to know the brand really well. It's a brand that I really resonate with, and even before I was involved with them, had Michelin tires on my bikes and ran Michelin tires on my cars. But to be invited, I think our association with them grew through last year, and I did a few things away from the podcast. I did a video for them as part of a promotion they did last year called Michelin. Get my teeth in Michelin. It's not happening, is it? Because they've asked me to do stuff because I'm really good at first take stuff.
You are normally.
Month in motion.
Yes.
And you did some stuff for that too.
Yep.
And I made a video, and Pat actually produced and edited, or was part of the team that produced and edited it. He ran the show, didn't you, Pat? He's too busy checking his phone.
Big thumbs up there.
So they've asked me to be a brand ambassador, and again, like you, it gives me access to some really cool events, and we've got some plans that we will share once things get confirmed, I guess. But I'm also going to be creating content for Michelin this year around a range of subjects. So yeah, for sure, everyone knows them for their tyres.
Yep.
Whether that's car tyres or bike tyres. They've got Michelin stars and Michelin guide and so on. So I'll be doing stuff. I guess we'll be both doing stuff with Michelin, but in different areas.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
Very cool.
I'm very excited.
And it ties together very well. As you all know, this podcast from day one has been supported and sponsored by Michelin, which is awesome because also Patrick behind the camera does a lot with Michelin, either with us or independently. And it's great that it ties all together because everything works very well. And then there's certain trips that we've got planned this year where it's going to work on a personal level and as a podcast level, and tying it all in with Michelin is just awesome. So yeah, we're really, really pleased and and just grateful to
it's a proud moment. It's very cool to be doing that. But yes. So yeah, there we go. I can't believe it, actually. Anyway, what's next on your list?
Nice.
When you announced your one a couple of years ago, I was like, oh man, how amazing would that be? And here we are, 2 years later.
It is nice. I'll tell you, before we move on, I think what makes it especially nice for both of us. Firstly, I mean, they are an incredible brand that we both can hark back to. Right at the start of not even our driving career. Like for me, it was when I used to ride mountain bikes, and it's a brand. Michelin are more than just a tyre brand, as we all know. But it's something that it's a brand I've always looked up to. I've always loved. I've always wanted to have in my car, even before I could afford to have it. I remember I used to go onto eBay, and my very first cars, sort of 20 odd years ago, I used to buy like slightly used Michelin tyres because I couldn't quite afford at the time to have the new ones. But I'd rather have a used Michelin tyre on there than a new budget thing, you know. Yeah. But it's what makes it so special, and I'm sure you're exactly the same. Is when you post something. We talked about this in the last podcast that there's a massive thing that you and I really stand by, and that's how organic we are around what we support. And we're not just about getting a quick buck. We're not just going to, promote something in order to make a few £100. We want to stand by and work with people that we love and we actually believe in. And when that's mutual, that's great. And I think it's just really nice when I posted something on my Instagram about a month ago now, announcing that I was going to be a brand ambassador again. The comments in there are just 1,000% supportive and saying both way, and things like, and so you should be, or, good for them, good for you, good. And it's just nice because it's like, I know I want to be working with them and you want to be working with them, but it's great to see that our audiences also can recognize that in a way it's like, well, yeah, that's the obvious thing. That should be how, and I think if all partnerships were like that, it'd be amazing. But in this day and age, they're really not. So it's lovely having such an organic partnership with such a fantastic brand. I mean, yeah, for sure.
So this year is going to be better for both of us because of that. What else have we got planned?
Yes, sorry.
So what are we going to do in this pod? What's the agenda? He's got his phone out for the agenda of this pod.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a few things we want to talk about. One of the main topics is the rise of insurance, insurance premiums in general, and what's happening there and the pattern. But something I wanted to talk about and start off with is actually, on a selfish note, is talk about my M2.
Cool. Can you get insurance for gearbox failure?
It was engine failure. But anyway, yeah, you should know that. I was the gearbox failure.
Well, yeah. The gearbox, yes. This is true. Yeah.
I was the gearbox failure. So, yeah, just an update on the M2. There probably won't be something on the channel quite when this goes out, but keep an eye out because it will be coming. So as you might or might not know, my M2 has been off the road for about 10 months now due to human error, gearbox changing, and over-rev the engine. Anyway, Swift Performance have employed a guy called Fabian this year, who's an engine specialist. Cool. And I've found out since he started that he really is an engine specialist, and a lot of people have messaged me, DM me, saying he is the man. He knows his stuff inside out, especially BMW engines, which is really handy. So he is right this second, actually, as we speak, because he's just tagged me in a story, rebuilding my engine, which is awesome. And that should then be going back into the car in the next couple of weeks. So probably by the time this pod's live, I'm hoping I'll be, I was going to say turning the key, but it's not quite that old. There's still a button on the M2, but it should be firing back up, and I should be hopefully back on track by, let's say, early March or something. But it's something that's kind of been out of my life for the past 10, 11 months. And I've really missed it. Probably a bit like with your Mini, because I know you kind of that was put on the side for a while.
Yeah.
You maybe fell out of love with it, as we talked about in the last podcast, because it was a bit over race car. And I just want to rekindle that relationship, and I'm looking forward to getting it back on the road.
Did it have forged internals before, and is it having them now?
No, so it didn't. And it's not going to have. It's going to have a few upgrades, including things like bearings, a few other bits and pieces, but nothing too major. The reason we're not going crazy, and Fabian asked me, how crazy I wanted to go, because he's done some serious tuning to S55 engines. Now, I don't want the stock power. That's 400. At the moment, it's remapped to 450, which is M2CS sort of power. It's a manual box. I've already proved it doesn't need to. I've already proved I can't shift any quicker. And you know what? All this talk of power and all the rest of it, I can't remember. What did you say last podcast? The new electric Macan's going to be 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
I really think for a road car that has substantial grip, 400 to 500 horsepower is more than enough.
Yeah, me too.
If I was turning it into a time attack car, well, firstly, I'd put a DCT box in it, because that's going to save some time. And secondly, then, I'd look at 700-800 horsepower, whatever. But I think 450 for me is good. And again, talking to Fabian, he was like, mate, that engine at that power is absolute. It will run, providing you do oil changes and things, it will run and run and run. And so in terms of that, it's going to be pretty stock.
Yeah. Most of my favourite drivers' cars I've driven are that 350 to 450 range.
Yep.
Any more than that, especially if you're going to use it on the road at all.
Yep.
It's just, it's daft.
It is, isn't it? And it is true. I think that's a really...
Especially there's a talent envelope I'm having to work with here. And that's well within my talent envelope.
Yeah.
Give me 700-800 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive car. I'm not that guy.
No. It wouldn't be any fun, would it? I think 400 for the road is just brilliant. So I'm looking forward to getting that back on the road, and shooting some more content with it. But on a personal sort of selfish level, just driving it, I've really missed that car. It's a car that I actually own, whereas my M3 Touring, it's not. It's a finance car. And I don't know if you're like this with your Porsche, actually. This is quite an interesting, well, at least I think it's quite an interesting subject, is when you because you've owned a lot of cars and you've only financed the Porsche, am I correct?
Yeah, I had because the other cars I've had on HP.
Yes.
So you gave your monthly payment, but at the end of the term, it's yours. There's no balloon, and that's how I bought my TT.
Okay, so it's because I find it. I on the other hand, my very early cars I bought, but usually bank loans or small, that they weren't expensive, thousands of pounds as opposed to tens or whatever. But in the last, let's say, in YouTube years, most of my cars have been unashamedly financed because I couldn't have afforded them otherwise. But what I find when you finance a car, yes, I'll love it and still respect it in many ways. Like I'm not going to push it when it's cold. I'm going to do all those sort of things that you do anyway. But I never really fall fully in love with those cars, because in the back of my head and my mind, it's like, it's going to go back to the finance company. It's going to get traded in. It's not with me forever. It's not a forever car.
Yeah.
And even though the M2, who knows, like in a year I might need to sell it because I might need the cash, at the moment, that is my car. That's my money.
There's something amazing about owning a car outright.
Yeah.
And I don't worry about mileage. You don't worry about wear and tear. All of those things. It's just your car. The Porsche, I love it. It's on finance. My club member was on finance as well.
Yes.
That got written off before I had a chance to trade it in for anything else or buy it.
Yeah.
But you do. The challenge I've got with my Porsche at the moment is I am being that guy worrying about miles I put on it.
Yep.
It didn't turn a wheel for 3 months. Over the winter I had a cover on it, and then a couple of weeks ago I messed up with booking press cars and things, and and my Mini was in the garage getting done, so I had to get the cover off and use it and drive it to a press event and back, and then drive it somewhere else and back. So it wasn't really even enjoyable driving, and I'm just sat in the car thinking, these are miles I shouldn't be putting on the car, and is it going to affect the value? And you can't help but think that.
Yep.
Especially in the current market. I know, we've done a chat about kind of car market and the prices falling and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yours took quite a hit, didn't it? Wasn't that that was one of your most popular videos recently?
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, not just yours.
I think mine's maybe 10 grand. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really want to think about it, to be honest.
I think it was set. I think what we're seeing in the used market at the moment is going to continue for a bit, but it's just it's a natural balance that's happening in the moment, because we've been up here. For those of you listening, my hand is now above my big head. And now we're down here. For those of you listening, my hand is now below my big head. And
so they're a long way apart.
Yes. And soon we're going to be back where my nose is.
It's more of a realignment of the market. I think it was super inflated for the last 2 or 3 years, but it still hurts. But when you own the car outright, you kind of don't. I think you just get to enjoy the car more. The downside is with modern day cars, owning a car outright is really expensive. You need a good amount of cash to do that.
And also, do you want to own so many cars today? Like, do you want to actually go out and go 100 grand? Okay, I'll buy that, and then find out in a month's time that it's now worth 75. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to? In many cases, in many ways, you kind of go, if I can shelter behind a PCP agreement, because that's my final value. So even if the car does completely fall off a cliff, I can walk away from that. And I think, you never really had that. You had a bit more security in the past, didn't you?
Yeah, true.
So, anyway, so there you go.
I can't wait to see it, and I know it's almost like you've kind of I know one of your children's gone missing for a year.
Yeah.
It's like you're sad deep down inside because your M2's in the garage in pieces.
Yeah, I am, and I'll be very happy to see it purring again.
Yeah,
I think I know we've said this lots of time before in the past, but we both need to celebrate with our sort of stalwart channel cars when they're both running.
Yeah,
get them out on the road. And, and go and take them out for us. Maybe we should do a video.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
We've only ever done one collab before, haven't we? Which is ironic because we work together all the time now. But
yeah. That was with either Clubman JCW long term, and you had an M135i long term.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow, that was years ago.
That was years ago. Yeah, good times.
It's funny though.
Near wantage.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess. Should we move on to insurance prices?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a hot topic, right?
Yeah.
And I guess there's a do we have to do the legal caveat? We're not offering advice. We're just giving opinion, depending on what we're doing. You get that's the challenge with doing insurance style videos on a YouTube channel, because you very quickly get into some muddy waters legally, but. Much like I'm sure you're the same as me, the amount of comments I've had on videos recently about insurance, and especially because I've got the Defender long-termer, which is a Land Rover product, and of all the manufacturers, Land Rover and EV cars seem to be having some big issues with insurance.
Yep.
And I guess Range Rover probably is the one that most people will be aware of. If you own a Range Rover and you live in London, good luck.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's all what confuses me a bit about that. And as you know, especially, I'm not the world's biggest JLR fanboy.
Really, Joe? I'd never noticed.
No, but I say that. Go on.
Tesla or JLR?
Oh, JLR for sure.
Okay, blimey. Okay, so that's how bad you don't like Tesla.
And listen, you know that the Portaloo that you had was a lovely car, and I drove one up in Scotland at the end of last year as well. So listen, they make much better products these days and stuff. But I think when I lived in London, so we're talking. Oh no, it wasn't when I lived in London. It was when I was still working as a chauffeur in London. So we're talking maybe 5-6 years ago plus. I remember then that insurance, especially for like when cars like the Evoque, not the Evoque. What's the Evoque? What's the one that sits between the Range Rover and the
Range Rover Sport?
No, the Sport. Discovery. It is Evoque, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the little baby one. Yeah.
And what's the one that Victoria Beckham originally had something to do with?
That's probably Evoque, I think.
No. Evoque. Oh, anyone.
Yeah.
No, the one up from that then. Velar, that's right.
Yeah.
So when the Velar came out, which must be what, 10 years now, maybe just over.
No, because I did one of my first viral videos was on Velar, so maybe about 7 years ago.
7 years ago. So when that came out, I remember there was all sorts of issues with those cars getting nicked left, right, and centre in London, and they were one of the hottest cars to get nicked, and Range Rovers. And I just do puzzle and think, how is it still such an easy targeted car to steal? I know, number one, it's probably obviously to do with its value, right? Those parts on the used market, on the black market, or whatever you want to call it, are very valuable. So maybe it's not that they're easier to steal. Maybe it's just that if you're going to steal something, you steal one of those because they're worth a lot of money. But from my understanding, they just seem to be so easy to lift. And even the new ones, I mean, how can the brand new ones be that easy to steal?
It's bizarre, isn't it? Because back in the day, when I was younger, cars were a piece of cake to steal, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, Mercedes used to have a problem. You used to get half a tennis ball because they had pneumatic locking systems. You get half a tennis ball, put them over the lock and hit it with a hammer. And the air pressure shock would pop the locks off and you could open the car.
I didn't know that.
So they've had, there's always been, the car theft thing. And then when immobilizers started to come along, I don't know if you remember, was it Vector or Vectra? I think it was Vector, were a really big immobilizer company.
Yep.
It was back in the days when Sierra Cosworths were quite new and stuff.
Yep.
And we started to see these immobilizers and then factory fit immobilizers. And it was almost like, well, cars are unstealable.
Yep.
And then I guess remote or keyless entry cars started to come in, and I think that popped open a bit of a vulnerability.
Yep.
But it's an arms race, isn't it? It's a bit like viruses on a computer and antivirus software.
Yep.
As soon as a vehicle brand says this car's unstealable,
yes.
Somebody's going to steal it.
Yes.
And I'm not an expert in this, but by all accounts, clearly Land Rover or particularly Range Rovers have a vulnerability.
Yep.
And there are criminal gangs now. Instead of doing drugs and they're stealing cars to order probably.
Yep.
And they know the vulnerability. They've got the kit they need, and you can walk away with one within a couple of minutes.
Isn't it amazing though? In this day and age, there's cameras on every single street and lamppost, and you think. I still find it amazing that these little utes can go around on scooters and mug people and get away with it. But the
and
fact
you see
that
those videos of them nicking bikes, and they've got like three of them stood around, and one of them's with a bolt croppy. Like,
I mean, that surprised me.
someone
The
needs to
fact
go
that
punch one of them.
yeah, exactly. But actually, yeah. Also, don't be cautious.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
You don't want to get stabbed.
Yeah,
trying to defend someone's bike. But then the fact that that people can go around and steal sometimes multiple Range Rovers from central London, like. You can't just magic. How does that, like, in my head, I'm just like, how with today's surveillance and everything else, how can it just disappear? It's unbelievable.
It's the guys that steal the catalytic converters. Well, that amazes me. How quickly they can get a cat off the car.
Yeah.
Wow. But no, it's but there are there's people reached out to me, examples of that own Range Rover product near London, and they just literally have an email from their insurance company saying, we can't insure the car anymore, or your renewal is, £15,000 for next year. So they price themselves out of it.
Yeah.
And I've heard on a couple of podcasts some of the car dealers who are struggling to sell Range Rover in London now because people just, it's not buying the car that's the problem. You get the car, they get their finance agreed to buy the car, and then they ring up an insurance company and they can't physically get insurance cover.
Yep. Yet another rising cost, as if we didn't have enough of like interest rates and car prices. Now we've got insurance.
And I think, the bit about insurance, in the old days, you used to get, the longer you were with an insurance company, the better the deal became, right? You'd get like a loyalty bonus almost. When you got your renewal, it would be less than you paid the year before because they were rewarding you for your loyalty. And now with the rise of comparethemarket.com type comparison sites, I don't think that loyalty is there anymore. People chop and change. But there's again, loads of people reached out to me saying, look, my renewal's gone up from £400 a year to £800 a year.
I looked online before this, and just a quick article in the Guardian. It was only published a few days ago, and basically car insurance in general over the past 12 months has gone up 60 odd % in general. EVs are over 70%. So if you took, just the EVs in the past 12 months, which is just ridiculous.
Wow.
And the average 18-year-old pays £3,000. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Average 18-year-old. Average. So that's probably like...
And I bet with that, they've got one of those black box tracker things on.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, $3,000 and you've got to behave like an absolute saint. You're being watched all the time and whatever. It is absolute madness. But yeah, I mean, where's it all going? But I guess with car insurance, we just talked about this a little bit off camera. There's places like comparethemarket.com. Obviously, we're always after a deal on our insurance because that's what's initially coming out of your wallet. But there's different levels of insurance, right? There's different levels of car insurance, customer service, if you like anything in this world. You pay what you get for in many ways. And I know that you're, you work closely with insurance companies. So could you tell us a little bit about why or what makes the difference between someone like Lockton and your, we're not going to name and shame anyone, but just...
So tempted.
feel free. But an off-the-shelf one that you might have got very cheap or much cheaper on comparethemarket.com.
Yeah, so I've done videos on my channel. I've worked with Lockton Performance now for a couple of years as an insurance partner, and I started working with them when I bought my Porsche because they're generally they go for premium cars. They work a lot with car clubs, so they're the official insurance partner for people like Porsche Club GB, Aston Martin Owners Club, that kind of thing.
Yep.
But I'd had when I had my Mini Clubman. I think we talked about jokingly on the last podcast, it was fine until it got hit by a log. And I had to make a claim. And I think it's only maybe the second time in 30 plus years of driving I made a claim on my insurance.
Right.
Both with logs, actually. The one before that was my Audi TT. I had a bit of wood fall off a truck and it hit the front bumper and it dented the bumper and cracked the headlamp.
Okay.
And I'm like, I don't want to claim on my insurance. And then I sent the car off to Audi. And the new headlamp was 800 quid. This is 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So I claimed on the insurance. But yeah, so I thought, well, okay, I was insured. Great. Rang up the insurance company, put the claim in the insurance. And they to cut a long story short, they ended up writing the car off.
Okay.
However, the process between finally getting them to agree to write the car off and finally getting my money from that car to then allow me to buy another car was painful in the extreme. And my problem I fell into, which lots of people will be in the situation, is your relationship will be with a broker probably, not with the actual company that's insured your car. So if you have an accident, what some brokers will do is they'll just pass you off to the insurance company. And then the insurance company, the ones that will do the assessment and the payout and all those types of things.
Yep.
And the problem I had was my broker was a very well-known insurance company, and I'd gone to them. They were very competitive in the marketplace, but they were a really well-known brand, and also they were a well-known brand that dealt with modified cars.
Okay.
Because I had both of my Minis had modifications on them. And that's, we're just talking about modifying your M2, just off topic slightly, and it sounds like I'm being an old boring fart, but if you modify your car, whatever you do, you must tell your insurance company.
Yep.
Because in this market we're talking about prices going up and stuff. Believe me, if you've modified your car and you have an accident, they will anything they can do to get out of it.
Yep.
So, and that anything could be some insurance companies. It might be even changing the brand of tire.
Yep.
Or not having manufacturer or OEM tires.
Yep.
Or not declaring a modification. And it's very easy to think, it doesn't matter. Won't matter. But anyway, that's another another subject matter.
Yeah, it's definitely something worth bringing up, and you're 100% right.
So anyway, so then when I wanted to try and contact the customer or the insurance company that actually insured me, it was painful. They didn't respond to emails. You'd be on hold for an hour and a half on the phone, And it was just a very painful process that lasted 3 and a bit months.
Wow.
And the reason...
And that whole time you've got no car.
Well, no, the other thing, they didn't give me a hire car either.
Right.
Because I didn't think it would last that long. And then by the time you think, well, I'm not going to hire a car, then that's not happening. And one was blaming the other and the other was blaming the other. It's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So the reason for saying that is the world we're in with insurance prices going up and these price comparison websites, it's a very easy trap to fall into, to go onto a price comparison website and just look for the cheapest possible quote and think, well, I'm going to pay the cheapest I can. And that's fine until you have to make a claim.
Yep.
So there's a balance to be had, and I know not everyone's in a fortunate enough position. Some people they'll have no choice but to go for the cheapest possible quote because they're struggling to pay the rent or whatever it might be.
Yep.
But you only know how good your insurance company is when you ring up and make a claim.
Yep.
And when I had my Porsche, I'd only had it a month or two, and I was on a drive tour in the south of France, and my insurance policy. Not only does it insure both my cars, but it also provides European breakdown cover.
Yep.
And track day cover as well, actually, which is quite cool.
Wow.
But anyway, my car broke down. I was on the route Napoleon, which you probably know well.
Yep.
Middle of nowhere. Big hole in my sidewall of my tyre.
Is that the one that your brother
He might have been driving.
Does that still hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still take the mickey out of him a lot. And I'm like, and it was a bank holiday in France.
Oh.
And it was a nightmare. And I rang up Lockton's, and they were awesome.
Yep.
They sorted out a recovery truck. We had to wait a long time for it to get to us, but it took us back to Cannes, and then we didn't have the car with us. We were in the middle of Cannes, and we just went to a pub to have a beer because we were it wasn't a good day.
Yep.
And then the phone rang, and it's Lockton's. They said, "Is the car dropped off?" Yes. So you'll probably need somewhere to stay tonight. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. Right, where are you? I'm in Cannes. No, whereabouts are you? Well, we're having a beer. What's the bar called?
Wow.
So I told them, okay. So they rang me back 10 minutes later. Right, we've booked you into a hotel that's 100 yards down the road.
Wow.
And then sorted everything out. And then when I got home, they rang up about 2 days later and said, I know you're back home. Is there anything that we can do? And they were amazing. Now, my insurance premium isn't the cheapest premium by a long way.
Yeah.
However, the level of cover I have and the quality of cover when you actually have, and that's the challenge people are going to have at the moment, I think, with insurances doubling or tripling in some cases.
Yep.
It's a really difficult place.
Yep.
Really difficult place.
Yep.
It almost feels like the forces out there are trying to force us out of car ownership altogether.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
New cars are eye-wateringly expensive.
Yes.
And insuring them's eye-wateringly expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of insurance, you'll have to have like a tracker or a immobilizer or something like that on your car, which is fair enough.
Well, Patrick's just actually messaged us in the group to said that his £1,500 Renault Clio 182.
Oh, that is a quality car.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
What did we say earlier on? It's the sort of, when Ped and I arrived earlier on, Pat pulled up and you could hear it because it's probably got a bit of a blowing exhaust, to be fair. And it's a sort of, I forget the colour. What colour is it, Pat? Inferno orange.
It looks like it's on fire, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like one of those, say, good from far, far from good.
Yeah.
It's like when it's like, oh yeah, Clio 182, and then the closer you get, you go, oh god, that is.
It's got 200,000 miles as well.
200,000 miles.
Wow.
Wait, there's a video. Can I make a review on that? Sure. There you go.
Yeah. I think I described it as when you're out and you've had a few beers and you see a woman in the distance, and think, wow, she's fit, and then you get close and she's actually about a 10-pinter.
Oh,
yeah.
I was going to say that, but I thought maybe not on the podcast, but there you go.
Hey,
What's my insurance got?
Oh, anyway, yes, going back.
So, you even have to pay to insure that? Do they not pay you to drive it?
Well, so his £1,500 Renault Clio went up from £600 to £1,200.
1,200 quid for a Renault Clio.
So there's a caveat to. Oh no, there's not really a caveat to that because it wasn't East London and you're still in London, so it's not really changed. I think no, it's doubled. So you're nearly paying, and this is just mad. You're nearly paying the value of the car a year to insure it. So basically, it's just.
I mean that strikes me as that insurance company doesn't want your money, your business.
That was the best quote. That wasn't like.
Oh, that was on a compare them.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's
that is scary.
Oh my god.
That is very, very scary. And Pat,
Wow.
what are you? You're nearly 30, aren't you?
28.
28. Crazy.
Well, what you want to be, if you're 51 and you've done advanced driving,
Wait, have you done? We haven't mentioned that in 2024 yet.
yeah.
So, Ben, have you just got a regular license?
In all seriousness, okay, I am going to get an advanced driving thing in here. In all seriousness, when people go, how do I deal with my insurance? So one of the things you could do, and I'm not suggesting it will help massively. It did when I did my originally did advanced driving because I bought a Honda S2000.
Yep.
And I was at the time, I think I was about 35, and my insurance renewal went from £400 to £600 or something.
Okay.
And I'm like, you're kidding me. And I did my advanced driving and it halved.
Right.
Because some insurance companies will take that into account if you have done some kind of advanced driving. Maybe not as advanced as the one I've done, obviously.
Obviously, I mean, there's nobody out there in this
There's only
world.
1,000 people in the UK that've got it.
Is there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they've got distinction level. Yeah. But so that's maybe one thing. Immobilise another thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the thing that amazes me is, so we pay all this money for insurance. Then you have a dink in the car, and the last thing you want to do is claim on your insurance in case it affects your premium.
Yep. Isn't it? Isn't it crazy that that's how? I mean, maybe we should start an insurance company. But I had something happen to me. So I had the flip side of, you said you were just treated so well in your instance with your unfortunate instance, but that's how that I mean, that sounds great. But it's exactly what you want if you're paying for a premium service, right?
Yeah.
So you came home, you're like, okay, well, the car, whatever, that happened. But on the flip side, whatever, we're fine and we got looked after. Years ago, 2017, I had an incident in Germany with my M1355i. And it was a narrow road and there was a learner driver coming the other way. I'd pretty much stopped. Learner driver came the other way and their wing mirror hit my wing mirror, smashed it off clean, and her wing mirror smashed so hard into the bodywork. It was just like a Ford car KA, whatever, like an old one. It actually smashed so hard that it went through her driver's window. So it smashed through there. So obviously it made a loud noise, and I thought, oh my goodness, like what's the damage going to be? And got out, and it was just the wing mirror for me, and for her it was the wing mirror and thing. Anyway, in Germany, the legal system is all a little bit different out there, and you have to call the police. And so the police came along, and she was really shaken up, understandably. She'd only just started learning to drive, and I just didn't really know what had happened because of the sound. I was still a bit sort of shell-shocked. But basically over there, as far as I know, the police, if they turn up, then they look at what's going on. They take your statement, they take theirs, and then they kind of decide there and then, okay, you go and deal with it with your insurance, or it's all on you, whatever. So the police at the time said to both of us that it was a 50-50. You're saying it was her, but you're also driving on the wrong side of the road, so it could have been whatever. And I just thought at the time, you know what? It's a wing mirror, a door mirror, whatever. Like, I'll go and sort out mine. You go and sort out your car. Goodbye. And so that was like a October 2017, maybe, or something like that. About 12 months later, I was speaking to my car insurance at the time, who were a comparethemarket.com special. And after I'd waited an hour and a half to speak to someone, a human being, I can't remember if I was renewing my policy or adding some points, or I was amending something on the policy. They were asking me about my, normal things. Have you had any points? Have you had any claims? Have you had any this and that over the past few years, as they do, which I never really understand because they know anyway these days. They've got it on a date. It's like, you tell me, I don't know the exact dates or codes, or you can see it on your system. Do I have a...
Yeah.
In most, thankfully, at the moment, I don't. I know everything's clean, no points, whatever, but touch wood.
Ooh, yeah,
But back then I knew that I did have this one, another claim, not that claim, because that, as far as I was concerned, was a personal thing that I'd covered, right? So then they got back and said, oh, unfortunately, we got one other thing here, October 2017. I was like, October 2017. No idea what that is. Oh, okay. Well, it looks like it happened in Germany, and I was like, Germany? Still not even thinking, because that was and then suddenly I was like, what? And they and so I said, can you tell me more about the claim? Oh yes, so someone had claimed against you. They claimed for a new door and a new glass, new this. It was like, honestly, this Ford KA would have been worth €1,000. Like it was,
it was worse than Pat's car.
It was worse than Pat's car. And fair enough, learn to drive. I'm not bagging the car, but that's what it was worth, maybe €1,500. This claim was €2,500 worth of claim onto my insurance.
Wow.
So they'd gone, not only had they completely disobeyed what the policeman had said, because they had my insurance details, because that's what I automatically did when it happened. I'd given them my insurance details and stuff. So they'd made a claim. But what really upset me and peeved me off about that was the fact that I didn't know anything about this that had been going on and had happened and had already transacted.
Did they pay out?
They paid out.
And they didn't even contact you?
Didn't contact me. But to make it even worse, Ped, this is where you need to really be careful about this, because obviously you can imagine at this point I am fuming that this has all happened. It has now impacted my insurance and my policy going forward, because someone has made a claim against me that I didn't even know about. And to make things even worse was that I said to them, if I'd renewed my insurance or whatever I was doing at the time, and we hadn't have stumbled upon that, and we hadn't have disclosed it, what would that have been me then lying about my? And they were like, oh, it's difficult to say, but yeah, probably, because you wouldn't have been telling the truth.
Been insured.
But I didn't even know about it, So there are some massive holes in the whole, and again, it just came down to the fact that, there was no one, and I'm sure if it was with Lockton or someone, it would have been in their interest to go, 1 second, let's just pick up the phone to Ped. At the very least, pick it. Do you know anything about this? Oh, this is what. Okay, but no, we'll just pay out and not tell Mr. Achilles. And honestly, that's scary, isn't it? That can happen. You don't know anything about it, and then you're almost made to feel like you're the guilty one because you haven't submitted something you didn't even know about.
And it goes back to what I'm saying. I think it's so tempting, and even more so in the environment where everything's so expensive, to not disclose things. Have I had a bump or a claim in the last 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, it was 4 years ago. I won't claim. I won't say anything about that one. They will share information about it anyway.
Yes.
Is my car modified? Well, I've got a stage 1, but that's software, so you'd never see that.
Yeah.
Believe me, if you I don't know, knocked a cyclist off their bike and killed them, they'd have your car in pieces. They'd find the fact they've got a stage 1 map on it. Anything to get out of it.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe that's me being an old cynic.
No,
You're
100% right. No.
Yeah. So no, I think the cost of motoring is scary. And then let's not even go there. How many young people, maybe more likely to be young people, just think, well, sod it, I won't bother insuring myself anyway.
Yeah.
And drive around with no insurance.
Yep.
And no road tax.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, road tax doesn't exist anymore. Road fund license. No, sorry. Vehicle excise duty.
As the roads get worse.
We haven't had road tax since 1956 or something yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's so if you guys listening, if you've got examples of insurance,
put them in the
comments, because we'd love to know, and we could maybe talk about it more on another pod, because I think, the Range Rover one, going back to the start of the story, that got so bad a situation for Range Rover that people weren't able to physically buy the car, that they had to basically start their own insurance policy to cover Range Rover.
Can you imagine how unreliable that would be? JLR insurance.
What's next on your list, mate?
Oh, wow.
Golden.
I am sorry. Well, next, I guess there's something we didn't cover in the last podcast, which I've been wanting to talk about since the back end of last year, is the Cybertruck.
Oh, mate, we talked about that in the podcast that was never.
Yeah.
What do you think of that amazing design icon?
I mean, it's just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so brilliantly designed.
Yeah, it's. I just don't know what to think of that. I mean, I'm not a Tesla fanboy anyway, as you know.
You're not?
But listen, I can appreciate if you suddenly remove the Joe's petrol head cap or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was suddenly
Not
working.
be much left, would there?
There wouldn't be much left, definitely not. And I was working in London, and I just wanted a car to get from A to B, and I wanted to keep costs down. You know what? I'm going to whisper this. I probably would have something like a Model 3 performance.
Mate, for the used prices at the moment, 25 grand to get you into Model 3.
Exactly.
If you want to dip your toe in EV, go for it.
Exactly. So if I really didn't
Joe's
care
just
about,
admitted that he's going to buy a Tesla.
if I really didn't care about the cars, I mean, my good friend and really good motoring journalist Paul Marrick, who works out, he has unashamedly got a Tesla and he loves it. And I think that's one of his few. He's got a few cars, but I think he almost has that just to wind people up, because it winds me up a lot. But anyway, the Cybertruck, it's just. I mean, it's just.
It looks like it's been designed by a 3-year-old with a crayon.
It does. It's terrible. I don't understand the hype around it. I have to take my hat off to Elon and everyone for actually going through and building it, because when it first came out, I thought, oh, it's just a publicity.
I thought it was just a money-making exercise, because you could put your money down, 100 quid down, and they generated so much cash from that. And I thought they're never going to make that.
Yeah.
And, well, they did. And it looks just like it did in the first drawings. Awful.
Yep.
It's very rapid in a straight line.
Yep. Which electric car isn't?
Well, yeah, true. I mean...
the other thing, something... So they did this, again, publicity stunt. And I watched something, and I can't remember, but I'm sure you can search it on YouTube. I can't remember who did it, but it was really well broken down. It was like a scientific channel. But they claimed that it would do the quarter mile quicker than a base Carrera or Carrera T with a Carrera T
being towed.
But actually... when you look at the footage, it's a bit like a Tuatara, the Tuatara.
The Tuatara.
Yeah, with Robert Mitchell and Misha and those guys and Tim. It's actually to the 8th mile. So it's quicker to the 8th mile, but not to the quarter mile. But they don't say that. But this person who properly breaks it down shows that it is only to the 8th mile.
Because then it runs out of aero, probably.
Runs out of aero, and that's when it's all about getting off the line with all that traction, isn't it? And that's where the 911 starts getting its legs and going for gold. But it's interesting, and I think Elon never. He says a drag race, and they hold it at a quarter mile strip, but so most people are just like, wow, it's cool, but it's not. It's an 8th. And
you just see that shot of it going past.
Yeah.
You assume that's at the end of the drag strip,
You
which
do.
is normally a quarter of a mile.
Yes, yeah. So that's clever. But still, I mean, even the fact that it can do an 1/8 of a mile, it's ridiculous. But do we need something that big, that ugly, that dangerous? No, we don't really. But it seems that some people seem to love it.
I appreciate what Tesla does, but I don't get that, and I don't get their big semi truck either. I don't get that. But
no.
Anyway, that's another story for another day.
Another story.
But yeah, Cybertruck. I don't know whether I think there's issues with pedestrian safety, and there's some really nasty, horrible angles on the side of that thing. Typical kind of build quality, really. But
yeah,
just I wouldn't want to be hit by one of them if I was a pedestrian.
No, or run over by one. I mean, it must be over 3 tons.
I don't know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Not my bag.
No.
It's a Lamborghini of the EV world. It's a very acquired taste. It's made for someone who wants attention, who's like, look at me, I've got a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. I think what we should... I can't believe the time already.
I know, yeah. We've been 2 old men grumbling about stuff.
Yeah, well, I think we should just touch upon anything interesting that we've been up to, that we've got coming up. Maybe I'll start because right at the beginning of the year, around the sort of time that we realised that our podcasts weren't working because the sound
when I was in Barbados on holiday.
It was pretty much then. I went up to an event called the DL12 in Sheffield, and I went up there with Michelin. Again, that's part of being part of the family is you get invited to some really cool events. Not just that, you get access to behind the scenes, etc. And the DL12 is a Dougie Lampkin trials event, motorbike trials. For those of you that don't know, Dougie Lampkin, he's a 12-time motorbike world champion who has jumped over you many years ago.
He did. It's probably the first video that's still on my channel because I deleted a few earlier ones. But yeah, no, he bunny hopped over me on the balcony at Goodwood.
That's
way back in, 2009 maybe.
Yeah, you look when you sent me that little clip,
I was quite young.
You look very young.
Yeah.
The good old days.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dougie's an absolute legend in the motorbike world in general, but especially in the trials world. And it was an event that his dad put on for years. He's taken it over, and it was just fantastic. He had, was it 10 of there's certainly 8 of the world's sort of best from all over, mostly Europe, to be fair. A few British guys in there, Spanish, you name it. And he builds the course. And there was 6 different sections. One of the sections was sponsored by Michelin. So it was like earth-moving tyres that they were kind of jumping over. It was really cool. But it was just a really awesome spectacle because I wouldn't say trials is like a MotoGP to me, whereas I couldn't miss a MotoGP. And if I did, I'd have to watch it replay. But when I was younger, I used to watch loads of trials on Eurosport.
Remember Kickstart?
Kickstart, exactly.
Oh, best program ever.
Yeah.
Dougie Lampkin was on Kickstart.
Yeah, and
and
so was actually and Rob Warner as well.
Yeah.
A lot of so things like that. They trials have been around for a long time, motorbike and mountain bike, and but it was just awesome, and it was a real spectacle to see.
How do they do that though? I mean,
and
you
it's
wouldn't be
not
able
just
to
about
climb over that most of it.
Exactly, and it's not just about like I don't want to use the word. It's not just about having the courage,
The kahunas.
the kahunas. It's not just about that. It's about having the sort of the thought process and being able to be on top of these crazy objects and think clearly about what you're doing next, and everything's so precise, and it's a real art. It was really.
I can't. I mean, you look at it. It's when I watch it, you think, well, okay, balance. I can't even do a track stand, let alone, just because you're not allowed to put your feet down at all.
No.
And then when they're perching on top of some ridiculous object.
Yep.
And they decide to then jump across a big gap to the next object.
Yes.
The timing of clutch, throttle, weight transfer, it blows my mind watching it.
It's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, and, very cool.
And so there was a Spanish guy, Tony Boo, who turned up. Is it 35 times world champion? 35. I mean, is there another sport that there's a 35-time world champion? Anyway, he turned up, and I'd asked people because I didn't know who was going to win. They all looked really good in practice, and everyone was like, Tony will take it. And honestly, everyone was amazing, but he was just a cut above everyone else. It was just, he didn't put a foot wrong, quite literally. It was just poetry in motion. So that was really cool.
If you're not sure who Dougie Lampkin is, the video you want to have a look at is the Goodwood one.
Yes.
So he's done a few things with Goodwood now, but the first promo video for Festival of Speed he did was probably about 2009, actually.
Yep.
And he wheelies across the lawn in the front door and then rides through Goodwood House up into, it was then Lord March's, the Duke now, up into his office, and then ends up on the roof.
Yep.
And Monty, the Duke's butler, gives him a glass of champagne. That is the coolest video ever.
That's what I said. I had a little interview with him, and I was like, you must have so many amazing memories to look back on. And but I said that's one of the standout ones for me because it connects the cars to him. But
the next year he nearly killed himself doing that though.
Oh, did he?
So the next year he did a similar thing, went around the estate, and he ended that one on the top of the racecourse stand at the racecourse, and nearly went off the end of it by accident. It was bad. Yeah.
Is that inside information, or is that?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, So he ends. If you ever go to the Richmond stand, it's really high.
Yep.
And he ends up riding along the top on his bike. It's unreal.
You can see that. I know I've never been there, but you can see that from
miles away.
From London.
Yeah. Amazing video. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's so that was great. And I've got a very cool trip coming up in right at the beginning of March, not directly connected to Michelin, but as many of you might know, BF Goodrich are owned by Michelin. They really specialize in more off-road stuff. And I'm going out to the Mint 400, which is a pretty crazy looking rally.
Is that like Baja type stuff?
Yeah, exactly. It just looks like like a festival that's built around a rally that's happening in Vegas. And I remember when I went last year to their Easter Jeep Safari event, which was awesome. People had just come back from the Mint 400, and there were the stories and stuff they're telling me. I mean, it's all in and around Vegas. I've never been to Vegas, so that alone is going to be pretty cool.
What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to wake up with a chicken in his room.
Well, yeah, in this state, I'll probably be in bed by 8:30, but
not with a chicken.
Not with a chicken, no. But yeah, so that's cool. And again, yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting away and doing that, and hopefully coming back with some good memories and good stories to tell. But
Sounds good, man.
And yourself, Ped, what's apart from your wonderful holiday?
Oh, well, that was quite nice. Yeah. I think the best. I don't know. I've told you about this actually. I'm going to Finland in March.
Nice.
With we're going to be driving over frozen lakes with Nissan in X Trails and Arias.
Oh, Aria. What's an Aria?
I had one as a long term. It's electric, mate.
Okay. Okay.
But it's 4-wheel drive, so
yeah.
so that's March. I haven't got
that.
You know when you get invited. Ice. You know when you get an invite. Now I haven't had the itinerary yet, so I know kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's the only big trip I've got, apart from some of the stuff we got planned with Michelin, which will kind of Le Mans is bound to. Will hopefully feature in both of our calendars this year.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, having not been last year.
One second, Pat. He's still got the violin out about that. Oh,
Rome was lovely.
Yes, yeah, through gritted teeth.
But yeah, no, just lots of bits and bobs.
That would be great. I mean, ice. That'd be amazing. I'll keep. When's that next? Are you going next month?
March. Yeah.
Oh, March. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then I've got a test now. Have I done it by the time this goes out? I've got a test in the Hyper Racer at Silverstone. That's going to be cool. So that's a single seat, full downforce, track only special.
By who?
Mega thing.
Who makes that? Is it
Hyper Racer?
Okay, I've never even heard of it.
I'm going to have to show you a picture
this is why I love Ped. You're like the encyclopedia of just...
Of cool stuff?
Well, no, definitely not. And I'm not saying this isn't cool because I'm sure it is. Oh wow, that's awesome. Wow, it's like, so it really is like a little Formula.
It's a Formula car, yeah. It doesn't have its own. Well, they think they are going to do a race series now.
What engine is that?
It's I think it's a bike engine actually.
One second, I've seen one of those when I was out in Australia. Is it an Australian brand?
Yeah.
I've seen.
And they got ridiculous underbody aero. Looks like a Aston Martin Valkyrie from the back.
I've seen one of those in Australia. Very, very cool.
Yeah. So so that's looking forward to that. Hopefully, won't kill myself.
Yeah, brilliant.
With my mate Oliver from Le Mans Coupes.
Yeah.
So yeah,
fantastic. Nice.
It's an hour look.
I know.
How did that happen?
Just like that. I know. It's unreal, isn't it? Time flies when you're chewing fat with your mate.
When you're chewing the cud. Can you imagine how time of life we were drinking beer at the same time?
Well, that's got to happen at some point. In fact, I think...
Can you imagine a drunken drive talk podcast?
I can imagine.
Don't drink... We could call it the Don't Drink and Drive Talk podcast.
Oh, wow. My God, he's here all night.
Oh, mate, that's...
Well, I think we need to... we're definitely going to do some lives this year.
Yes.
Maybe one very soon.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
And I think, when we're doing lives, providing we're staying in a hotel... I would be quite keen to sink a few beers. Yeah. Drop a few F-bombs. But yeah, on a serious note, we are keep an eye out for these. We did do 1 or 2 lives last year. We did one at Cafe in the Machine.
One at Cafe in the Machine.
I think just that one. We plan to do more, but as with everything, the year kind of blew away. But this year, we're definitely planning on doing some more lives. We're kind of structuring them still, so we're not going to say fully what they're going to be like, but one thing as a live viewer, if you come down the night, you're going to get a unique experience.
Yep.
In the sense that a lot of what you see and hear won't be on the podcast. It'll be more personal.
Yep.
You get to chat to Ped and I before and after, and ask us,
and meet the magical Pat.
and meet the magical Pat, and see his.
Yeah, he'll bring the Clio. Yeah, you
his-
can.
Yeah, see his Clio. You'll hear it from a mile away. But yeah, it'll be cool, and I think I'm really looking forward to that because I like just being able to speak completely freely and not worry about it,
Exactly.
especially if some beers have been flowing.
Yeah. And the best way to know what's happening is make sure you're following us on Instagram.
Yep.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on whatever podcast platform you're listening to.
Exactly.
That was a good segue, wasn't it?
Absolutely amazing. Right. Well, cool.
All right, Grandad, should we finish?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm fading. It's 3:00.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us on that episode of the Drive Talk podcast. We will see you on the next episode.
Take it easy.
Cheers.